It hasn't been a great year for gender diversity in technology. A series of high-profile stories have rocked high-tech firms, including revelations of widespread sexual harassment at Uber that led to the resignation of the then CEO, and a leaked memo from a young Google employee, you might remember, that caused a furor because he criticized diversity efforts and argued that women are biologically less capable of engineering. Correspondent Megan Kermick talks this week with 3 New Mexico women about efforts to correct the gender imbalance in tech and get more girls and women interested in coding and STEM-related fields.
I'd like to welcome Lisa Atkins with Ingenuity Software Labs and Girl Develop It. Monica Alvarez is a graduate of the Deep Dive Coding Bootcamp and now works for a software development firm. And Cherish Franco is an engineer who encourages young women to go into computer programming. Thank you all for joining us. Lisa, I want to start with you. There's an ongoing gender imbalance in technology, and it still tends to be dominated by men. You ran a software firm for years. Why do you think this gap persists?
I think women are hesitant, even young women are hesitant to go into that path because they're uncomfortable, they don't feel welcome. I think they have the impression that it's not as easy for them as it is for boys. So hopefully they learn early on in school that those are all misconceptions, and they have teachers who encourage them to move on. And if you get to be an adult and you still haven't entered a STEM career or learned how to code, there's other places that you can go to get those opportunities. So, like Girl Develop It.
So what was your experience in college? I know you didn't have a real good experience.
I did not.
Tell us about that.
So I have a degree in Management Information Systems from UNM, and I'm really good in tech and IT. It's just a natural skill for me. And I probably could have become a software developer. I really like coding. But I had a teacher who was not encouraging. He made me feel so stupid in class. And my dad at the time was very high up in the department. It was called CERT. He ended up being the CIO of UNM.
Chief Information Officer.
Chief Information Officer. I remember, going to his office and tears rolling down my face because it was so hard for me. And this teacher did not help. And I really think that was a pivotal time for me, because had I had a teacher who had been more encouraging, there's no telling what I could have done with those skills. I mean, I've had a very accomplished career in information technology. This is my second software development company. But I've never taken on the role as the software developer. I hire the software developers, and I try to hire women as much as I can.
Well, that's the difference when you have someone in charge,
yes.
Actually, a woman running a firm. Cherish, you have a degree in computer engineering. What made you want to enter that field?
Actually, it was my mom. She, in high school, I wanted to play sports and take classes like home economics and things like that, things that aren't really necessary, and she told me that I needed to take a computer class because that's where the future was going.
Did you want to?
No, I didn't. I thought that was the worst idea ever. But I ended up taking a very basic, visual basic programming class, and it was the coolest class I'd ever taken in my life. And after that was my junior year, I decided that I would start applying to schools that were engineering schools, specifically New Mexico Tech. And I ended up there for my undergraduate degree of computer science, and then eventually got my master's computer engineering from UNM. And I'm actually working on another master's in information technology, security, and assurance.
Why do you find it a rewarding career?
I really like it because I'm able, I can go a bunch of different angles. I can program if I want to, or I can be the person that overlooks the programming and finds the errors or makes them work together. So I can come from different sides of the spectrum and be the one who makes it, or be the one in charge, be the designer, be the final person who sends it out, make sure it works correctly. It's just a lot of different ways that I can make a difference in the world, really, especially because the world is becoming more technologically dependent.
How have you dealt with the unique challenges of being a woman in your field, sometimes being the only woman in the room?
Well, I'm definitely always pretty much the only female in the room, regardless of what kind of meeting or conference I'm at. But I haven't had too much of a difficulty dealing with that, mostly because when I went into my degree program, I told myself, even if it was hard and even if people didn't think I could make it, that I was gonna force myself to make it because I knew I could do it. And so the only time I've ever felt maybe pushed aside would be maybe in school, when the guys were over there in their own little groups doing homework and I was over there by myself doing my own homework. But I still graduated and I'm still on the same level as they are.
So they were in study groups, but you kind of were on your own.
For the most part, like 90% of my work I did in school has always been on my own.
Well, Monica, you did the deep dive coding
Yes.
boot camp here in Albuquerque. It's really intensive training to teach you coding. Why did you want to get into that?
A couple of reasons.
And you did not have that background, I will
No,
say.
I
in
graduated
computers.
from UNM with a degree in international relations and political science. So I really enjoyed that, and I started working in the nonprofit world. And a big thing, like after college, I was kind of trying to figure out what it is I wanted to do. And something that was really important to me was being involved in an organization that encouraged young girls to like have confidence in themselves in any field that they want to be in. And so that's actually how I like discovered technology. It was kind of looking for these organizations that were encouraging young girls to get into tech. And then it wasn't until I kind of heard some stories of some women programmers, because I never ever thought that I would be in a tech career. Like it never really crossed my mind because I kind of grew up thinking that's just not something I can do probably. So I heard these stories of some women programmers who like, oh, wait, these people are my age and they kind of look like me and these are their stories and maybe I can try to do this too. So it was kind of like I got into coding because I wanted to help young girls get into coding, but ended up there myself, which is really, I'm really excited about that because when I started programming, I had never like been that excited about doing something before. And so I like instantly loved it after I took my first programming course and I went to Deep Dive Coding, which yes, is a very intensive 10-week course. And now I work as a developer and I couldn't be happier about that.
Well, but there's a lot of research that shows that messaging to girls about not being good in math and science has a powerful effect. We heard that from Lisa, even starting in middle school. So what was your experience like?
I feel like, you know, it's hard to pinpoint like a specific time. I feel like girls get this idea thrown at them either directly or indirectly from like the society at large. I just remember kind of like sitting with my friends, like, and literally saying out loud, like, we wish we could be boys because like they're smarter and like they can have fun and like do cool things like skateboard and stuff like that, you know?
Work on computers.
Yeah, and work on computers and just all of these ideas that we had about ourselves of things that we could not do that boys were automatically better at. And so it's, you know, you have to be like very vigilant about what you say to girls because we still live in the society that like media in general is telling them like, oh, this isn't for you. So.
Well, I know you tried to go into computer engineering, right, in college?
Yeah. So when I first graduated from high school, I thought, okay, I'm going to do something big. Like, I'm going to be an engineer. So I went to UNM orientation, and they split you into these different groups based on your major. And I went to the engineering one, and I was the only girl there. And I felt extremely uncomfortable. And like at that point, my confidence wasn't up like very high anyway. And so I like by noon that day, I had them switch me to undecided because I was like, well, clearly in my mind, like this isn't a place for me. Like no one here looks like me. Like I don't really belong here. And so I instantly left that. And I'm sad about that. I feel like I really would have enjoyed engineering, but at the time it just seemed like overwhelming to be the only girl there.
Well, Cherish, some of the earliest coders in computers were women, including one who's considered the world's first computer programmer, Ada Lovelace. Do we need to teach this history to girls so they understand they have a place?
I definitely think so. That was actually something I didn't learn till maybe when I was getting my master's degree, which is really odd because I actually know how to program in Ada. So you would think I would know that Ada Lovelace was the creator of Ada. But we definitely need to get it out there that women are quite capable of being programmers and coders, engineers. It doesn't even need to just be computers, that you can be an engineer, you can do math. especially because I think, and you know, this is no offense to any male who's in any field, but I feel like women are a little bit more detail oriented. So being in a field like that should come super easy and super natural. And just because there's, you know, just one or two of you in there that are girls, that was my favorite part of being in school, was being the only girl, because I was breaking a norm. I was going to be a pioneer and show people that, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I'm a sports person, I'm a jock, I like to go shopping, I like to bake, I like to get up and get ready in the morning and look really pretty, and I'm a programmer. And I like to see the look on people's faces when they meet me for the first time as the software developer, computer engineer for BAE Systems for the Air Force. And they're like, oh, you're the programmer. And I'm like, yes, I am.
Lisa, you brought a chapter of Girl Develop It to Albuquerque, and that offers introductory classes on coding to women. What kinds of women are taking these classes?
You know, we have a very diverse, and by the way, Monica teaches for us, diverse set of women. I have had a couple of scientists from the labs come out who want to advance a little bit, get some additional knowledge. I have one woman who drove down from Lannel for many Saturdays so she could advance at Lannel. I have a lot of women who are trying to figure out their next step, getting ready to retire, and I have moms. And I always try to tell moms that freelancing and software development in your home while you're taking care of your kids is one of the best jobs, and it's doable. And so I see a lot of women who are, you know, working mothers who are trying to make a difference for themselves.
Well, we talk a lot in New Mexico about economic development. How do you think encouraging more women to go into technology fields here in the state might have a broader impact on the economy?
The studies show that companies are more successful when women are part of the leadership team. Women are really good software developers, so your code and your product and your services will be better if you have women involved, in my opinion, and there's studies that prove that. You're right, we do pay more attention. Women listen, they don't assume when it comes to programming or fixing IT problems. And so personally, as a software development company owner, our first hire is a female intern, and we fully plan to employ at least 50% or more women in our company because we have a passion for bringing more women into tech.
Do you have any thoughts on Cherish or Monica?
I love everything you just said. It was the greatest thing ever. I think if you can get more women in technology, I think just the economy in general in Albuquerque will just spike astronomically because there really isn't very many of us in technology, and if we can get more people like that, we'll have more options to do things like, I think Monica said she gets to work from home 2 times a week, which is amazing. A lot of people would love to do that, or you said you could do freelancing from home, which makes it super easy for moms or maybe even students who need to have a job but go to a class at the same time. It'll open the door for so many more people to not only get into a world that's gonna explode, but also be able to maybe even think about making their own companies and making a difference in the world in their own ways.
Monica, what would you tell young women? Why should you go into coding? Young women of any age.
Yeah,
in terms of, because I'm guessing you might be making a bit more than when you were working in nonprofits. Not that there's anything wrong with nonprofits.
I mean, first of all, like my biggest reason for getting women to coding is just that these are great jobs and they're a lot of fun, and it saddens me that women grow up thinking like they can't do this, because this is like the most rewarding job I've ever had. Every day it's a challenge. I get to, I'm never ever bored. And so for women that are thinking about it, I say just, try it and see if you like it. I think that's the biggest step, because a lot of us don't even get the opportunity to try it. So I think the more people that try it, the more people that get into the tech scene. And in general, as far as the economy goes, once you get into technology, it's not just programming that you can do. You can be into networking or security. And there's so many options for moving forward. I feel like I can move up in my career now, when before I kind of felt like, well, you know, I'm kind of like stuck here in this one position, but now I feel like I can go in any direction. So
Thank you so much for coming and talking about this.
Yeah, thank
Yes,
you.
thank
Thank you.